So it is great to be back. Thanks for having me. I think it provides an interesting challenge when I'm speaking to a group like this, because half you guys already know me and are like clowning me already, I hear. And then half you guys have no idea who I am. So I thought instead of sharing about myself and sharing what I do for a living and all that stuff, I thought I'd rather talk about you. I'd rather talk about Epic, what it was for me, what it still looks like it is today, and what it means to me. So I think I can summarize my entire Epic experience in one story, right? So I used to live in a house. It was the craziest house of all time. Yeah. It was me, you guys know Josh, Joe, Alvin, you guys know Alvin, and then this crazy little guy named Jesse. And you guys know Jesse. And we lived in a house that we called the Burning Bush, right? And I was driving home from class, because I always went to class. And on my way home, I saw all the cars there, right? So I was like, okay, everybody's home, that's cool, find my friends, whatever. I hop out of the car and I go to open the door, right? So I open the door. And you guys ever know, like, when the hero goes into like a trap, he's like, it's quiet. It's too quiet, right? You guys know that? So for me, that's what happened. Like, I opened the door and like my house was never quiet if everybody was home. And so I was like, it's too quiet in here. And so I like look up, and the way the house was set up was basically there's a hallway that's perpendicular to the door. So I have no idea what's behind that wall. And I see Joe's head like jump out like a matchstick and like come back in. And I'm like, okay, Joe thinks he's slick. He doesn't think I saw him, but I totally saw him. I'm like, okay, I know what's gonna happen. So I slowly take off my shoes, I put my backpack on the couch, and I'm like, I'm gonna make a run for it. So I sprint to the other side of the house, and then 4 guys jump out from outside that wall, and they start like, I got Josh on my hip, I got Joe like grabbing my arms, Jesse's like hanging off one of my legs, and then Alvin didn't usually like wrestle with us. He kind of just jumped and screamed and made noises all the time. And that went on for 5 minutes, right? Like we got couch pillows everywhere. And we're gassed after 5 minutes. So like I'm on the couch, like my shirt's probably like stretched, and this would happen like often. But like so we're all gassed, and then this is what the part that I remember. This really made Epic for me. I remember Joe asked the question like 5 minutes after we just got through all that. He goes, Marcus, like what do you think happens when we go to heaven? What do you think Jesus is going to do? Right? And then we go through like a 30-minute like deep discussion about Jesus, what it's going to be like. Is it going to be singing all the time? Is it going to be boring? What is heaven, right? Like this deep discussion, like that's Epic for me. It was that perfect blend of that one side of all my parts of my personality, the best and worst parts, being able to share that community, and whether it was basketball, like just being a dude and like wrestling, all that stuff, and then that deeply spiritual, I want to get close to God, I want to get close to my community, and follow God, and that blend is what made Epic for me. And I still see it today, you know, whether it's cooking, art, music, dance, right, weightlifting, whatever it is. I think Epic does an amazing job of blending who we are, like the personalities and little differences and nuances that God gives us, and this deep spiritual want to be together and with God, right? And so when I was given the opportunity to come speak with you guys, it means so much to me, you know, like especially for you, first and second year, all the new faces that I see that I've never gotten a chance to pour into because I was already gone. It means everything, you know, being able to have this chance. So at the end of the day, I want this time that we have together to be meaningful. I want it to be impactful for you. And I realized, right, like, so I was like, okay, I want it to be meaningful. So how many large groups do I actually remember out of the 70, 80 I went to? I'm like, content-wise, like 2, 3, maybe, right? And maybe that's just me, because I'm terrible at paying attention. But I was like, okay, what is it about those messages and pieces of advice that were given to me over the years that actually made me remember, right? And as I was thinking about it, it all came down to one thing. Everything that I remembered had an image or a story that was so profound, strange, or weird, or gross that stuck in my head that let me remember the rest of it, right? I'll give you an example. Best advice that I ever received in college. I was a freshman, and this is way before I tore my cool card, right? So for you first and second year boys, like if you haven't torn that up yet, it's time to tear up your cool card. But I was going to an American Marketing Association meeting, right? AMA. It was like one of 2 meetings I ever went to. I went to that one, and then I went to speak at one after I graduated. In that first meeting, I sat in the back. I thought I was way too cool, right? Like somebody comes up and is like, hey man, you want to connect on LinkedIn? I'm like, not really, it just met you, right? So that's the kind of person that I was. and I wasn't paying attention, probably on my phone. And then I hear the speaker, right? I just remember her stand up, and this is how she starts. She goes, "The key to success in life is how well you juggle your balls." And all right, so 17-year-old kid, you hear the word balls, you're laughing, it's interesting, right? So I sit up in my chair, and I'm like, okay, what is this about? And then she repeats herself, and she says, "The key to success in life is how well you juggle your balls." And then I was like, okay, what do you mean? And she goes, well, in life, we're juggling tons of things, right? That's what life is. Each one represents a different thing that we have going on in our lives. And she goes, if you want to be successful, you got to know how to identify which ball is made out of glass and which ball is made out of rubber. And she paused. I'm like, okay, what does that mean? She goes, well, what happens when you drop a rubber ball? Well, it drops, you can pick it up again and start juggling, or it'll bounce back to you, right? But what happens if you drop a glass ball? It cracks, it's irreparable, you can still juggle it, but it's now going to scratch your hands, it's not the same, right? She says, I want you to write down what in your life is made out of glass and what's made out of rubber. Super serious message. And this is advice that I still follow to this day, right? I'll give you an example. In college, I'm studying for a test. That class was rubber for me because I thought I was good at it. And then, I see that, Joe. I was studying. And then my mama, she's gosh for me. That relationship is gosh for me. So studying for a test, I'm like, oh, I haven't called my mama in 2 weeks. So I dropped the test. Call mama, hey mom, I love you, Marcus, say bye. 5-minute conversation, right? But now I preserve the glass ball, and then I can always come back to that rubber one, right? So that's all that to say, the reason that I remember that advice, and the reason I still use it to this day, is because of that fact that there was a strange image, that woman literally coming up to the stage and goes, key to success in life is how well you juggle your balls. That image, in my head, right? So that's all right, but I can't believe they're letting me say this, I think. But that image, right, is what makes you remember. And that lesson ended up being really impactful for me. And so now we're going to start talking about the real stuff, right, about relationship goals with the church. So me wanting to make this time impactful for you, I was trying to think, what is an example that I can give you that is going to have some weird image in your head that's going to help you remember what a good relationship with church looks like. And it hit me. God says, I am the groom, and you, the church, are the? Bride. All right. I am the groom, you, the church, are the? Bride. Bride. Okay, you guys do read your Bibles. That's great. But bride. So I don't know if it's weird for you guys, but as a dude, hearing I want to go to heaven to marry Jesus, that's a weird image for me, right? It talks about being dressed in white. I'm trying to go to heaven and wear a dress. That's a strange image in my head, kiss the bride. I'm not really trying to go to heaven and kiss Jesus, right? So that's the image. Let that sit, because that's the image of church and God. It's a wedding, and it's us, the church, as the bride, and Him as the groom. So that's a strange image, right? If you think about it. And the thing is, every time God gives us an example, right, He will always give an example that transcends time and culture, right? So back then, 2,000 years ago, there was no dating as we know it today. There's no, Christian mingle, East meets West, Black people meet, none of that, right? But there's but the difference, right? But there's something that stays the same in marriage all the way back then until now. And I think it's for a marriage to be successful, the husband and the wife need to be on the same page, or they need to be fighting to get on that same page, yes? Right? And that's the message. For us as Christians, if you want to have a good relationship with the church, it will all depend on how much your desire in your heart is to get on the same page with Christ in the way that you think, the way that you talk, the way that you act. That's it, right? I can stop the message there. That's the most important thing. That's the why we have a relationship goal with the church. That's it. It's if I care about getting on the same page with Christ, right? But in order to get there, I think there's 2 marks that you can actually see in yourself, because a lot of times people are I have a good relationship with Christ, with the church, because I'm going to 10 Bible studies a week, building community, whatever it may be, and list all these things that you do. But I think there are 2 marks that show somebody that has a really good relationship with the church. And these are the most basic Christianese, Christian 101 terms that I can throw at you. But I hope I can take them a step deeper here, right? I used to think that maturity in Christianity was knowing all these obscure little details. I remember preparing for the discipleship. I used to disciple Justin Chan and John Gongai, and I remember preparing every week. It's what new obscure fact could I give them that makes them interested, right? That's what I thought mature Christians did. But I think now as I mature in my faith further, I realize that maturity in our Christian faith is actually taking the most simple concepts and seeing how deep you can dig in them, right? So the first concept, this is the first mark of somebody that has a good relationship with the church. Sacrifice, right? That's the most basic term that any Christian should know, sacrifice. God sacrificed himself. He says, like, carry your cross every day, deny yourself, all these basic Christian things, right? And then take a second to think about it, right? Like, when was the last time I denied myself? I don't know. God says to do it every day, but like for me, somebody that's like, especially now that like I've been making money for the past couple years, if I really want something, chances are I go get it. If I want to be on YouTube for 2 hours after work, I'm not going to deny myself. I'm just going to lie down and do that too, right? But these are like basic things that God says, sacrifice every day, deny yourself for me every day. But right, basic concept, but it goes deeper. So I remember when I was in college, I went to BT, like a lot of you guys did. I went with some of those losers back there. We went to EA, not Southeast Asia. And I remember my response coming back was very similar to the response that you guys had, right? Like I feel privileged that I can go to church on Sunday. I feel appreciative that I can read my Bible whenever I want, right? And these are great answers. Like, this is exactly the same thing that I felt. But then when we look at it a little step deeper, we go, why are we so impressed? Why are we so amazed by people in those unreached people groups? It's because they have to sacrifice. They have to sacrifice their relationships, their friendships, their relationship with their parents, their safety in a lot of cases, their status. They sacrifice a lot, and that's why we're so amazed by it. And then you take that back to our perspective, and then it changes a little bit, right? I'm privileged because I don't have to sacrifice for Christ. I'm appreciative because I don't have to sacrifice anything so that I can read my Bible. Sounds a little twisted now, right? And then when you see Paul, in the way that Paul, when he's starting churches, right, he's going through all types of suffering and beatings, and sacrificing all these things, right? As he's starting churches, he goes, I count myself blessed and privileged, right? So it's totally twisted, but actually for us, when we see people that are having to sacrifice their lives, their families, those are the people that are privileged. Those are the people that are blessed, right? And it's totally opposite. We never like go see people suffering. They're so privileged. They're so blessed. They get to. It's not normal. But I think that's actually the heart that God calls us to. And so for us, college students, and going to the workforce, how can I sacrifice for Christ, sacrifice for the church, right? What that looks like is I got a test on Monday. It's a big test. I really want to skip church on Sunday so I can get an extra hour of sleep, an extra hour of studying. Sorry because it's hitting really hard for you guys. I know it's midterm season. If you skip church, like, no judgment. But honestly, like that, this is an opportunity to sacrifice. I got all this stuff going on Monday, but then I'm gonna sacrifice the extra hour of sleep because being in community at my church and singing praises with them means more to me. Or this is my classic example. Saturday night, I want to hang out with my friends. Like me and Josh want to go play basketball until 12 in the morning, and then go get food and mess around and do whatever until 4, whatever, right? And then I'm like, I'll just go to church on Sunday. And then church on Sunday is me like just napping the whole sermon long, right? But then instead of hanging out till 4, sacrifice, hang out till 2, right? Like, I don't know, whatever that may look like for you. But any little sacrifice, right? It seems crazy. It seems crazy to compare sacrificing like an hour of sleep or an hour of hanging out with friends to sacrificing your life or sacrificing your family life. But you know, we look on the outside, God looks at the what? We look at the outside, God looks at the inside, okay, the heart, same thing. It's kind of where God looks at your inside. God looks at your heart. And I'm a firm believer that the same heart that is willing to sacrifice an hour of sleep or an hour of hanging out with your friends is the exact same heart that is willing to sacrifice your life to go to church, right? It's the same heart. So that's what God sees, right? He doesn't see everything on the outside. Oh, he sacrificed so much for me. He sees the heart. How much in your heart is there to sacrifice for me? So that's mark number 1. Mark number 2 is another really basic concept. You hear it from little kids all the way to adults. And it's this. It's, I go to church so that I can learn more about God. Everybody's heard that, right? So at my church back home, I teach 4th and 5th graders. And I'll be like, hey man, why'd you come to church today? And they'll say, I'll get one of 2 answers. It'll be, the first one is, I'm here so I can hang out and play with my friends. It runs off, right? And then I'm like, wow, this guy's already building Christian community. That's amazing, right? So that's option number 1. And then option number 2 is they say, I'm here so that I can learn more about God, so I can learn more about Jesus. And I'm like, yes, that's the correct answer. I'm here at church so I can learn more about God. But the sad thing is that same answer that this little 4th and 5th grader has is the same answer that a lot of us have, right? That same level of understanding, like, I'm here so I can learn more about God. And you just said it for so many years, it's just what you do. So I'm going to try to take that a step deeper too. So I got a friend that's sitting here. This person will remain unnamed, but she always tells me, she goes, Marcus, I will never date somebody that's boring, right? And then she'll be like, he needs to have hobbies and passions and all these things. Like, I don't care if he's super cute. If he's boring, I can't date him, right? And I'm like, okay, cool, good luck, right? But she's right, you know? Like, God knows that the way that we're created is we hate being bored. We always want the new thing, right? Whether it's an iPhone, whatever it is, we always want to stay interested in that new thing. We want to stay interested always to infinity, right? That's why we have a God-shaped heart in our heart, a God-shaped hole in our hearts, right? And then you have God, and God says, hey, look at me. I am the most interesting, the most infinitely good, infinitely kind, infinitely complex, infinitely loving. I don't just have hobbies, I created hobbies, right? That's God talking about himself, and he goes, get to know me, right? And I believe that attitude, if we come to church with that attitude of wanting to know that God, it's going to look a whole lot different than, I'm coming to church, I'm going to learn a little bit more about God, right? If you realize that the offer that God has for you, right? But these two marks on the sacrifice and wanting to learn more about God can only happen if your why is there. And the why is what? To get on the same page as God. If you don't care about that, you're not going to do it, right? If you don't care about getting on the same page with God, you're not gonna sacrifice for it. Why would you? And you're not gonna really care about learning more about God. Why would you do that either? But the more that you actually care about getting on the same page in the way you speak, the way you think, the way you act, you're gonna be doing those things. I care a lot, so I'm gonna sacrifice this week. I care a lot, so I'm gonna really try to learn more about Him. That's why eventually things start happening where you do end up going to those Bible studies. You do end up helping out in the homeless community. You do end up doing, like, the do's start happening, but only after the heart's right? After the why is there. And so, yeah, that part's pretty short, but that's the part that I really hope you guys take away from this. And the last two things that I want to share with you guys, the first one is Marcus advice, and Marcus advice is not always good. I've been known, like, Josh knows firsthand, like, he'll be walking the UU, be like, Marcus, should I go to class? I'm like, hey, let's just go shoot around, man. And then he'll be like, all right, and then we go, right? And so my advice sometimes can be not the greatest, but hopefully this one is okay for you guys. But again, this first piece of advice is basically how I choose a church. All right, so that first half of what I was talking about is all about what it looks like to have a good relationship, and this is more practical stuff of what that actually looks like for me, and hopefully for you guys too. So when I pick a church, I look at four things. The first thing is I look for old people. It sounds so weird, but I look for old people. I look for young people. I look for families, and I look for prayer, and that's it. When I pick a church, those are the only four things I look at. I look for old people because when I see old people in a church, I know that theology is probably good. Like, you're not going to see too many churches with old people where they're like, yeah, you put in $5 this week, you're going to get $100,000 next week. You're not going to see that. Two, I look for young people because I try to be in a church that fits my context as a young adult. And then three, I look for families because I really do believe church needs to be a place that people feel safe raising their kids in an environment. And I love hanging out with the little ones. And then four, prayer, because you could have all the fog machines and backlighting in the world. If the church isn't based on prayer, it's not a good one, right? So I say that, and it sounds super legalistic, and this is Marcus advice. Nowhere in the Bible does it say this. But I follow this because I realize that I'm very selfish and very judgmental, right? After church, my natural response is always, hey, what did you think about service? What did you think about the sermon? What did you think about worship, right? It's all about us. And so I realized if I don't have to set these four rules for myself when I pick a church, it always becomes about me. And so I had to set these things so that I remember that I'm going to church for God, right? I'm here as his servant. And so that's the first thing. And the church that I actually ended up choosing was Journey Christian Fellowship. I don't know if anybody goes there, but the reason I had a great experience there, my pastor is a crazy little Korean pastor. I'm not Korean, by the way, but I just remember my freshman year of college, my best friend almost died, and sorry, I keep oscillating between like super like serious and like lighthearted, but sorry. My best friend almost died. His heart stopped beating. So he was playing basketball. He just collapsed on the court, right? And I was here in SLO. He was in LA, and I was freaking out. But I didn't show it too much. So I was like a little worried in my own head. I still went to church that Sunday, sang all the songs, smiled, shook everybody's hand, went home afterwards, right? And I just remember coming home, not knowing what to do, and the pastor texted me, and he goes, Marcus, I have this feeling in my heart that something's off with you. What's going on, right? I didn't show anything. I'm a freshman in this church, and I'd only met him a couple times, but he, somewhere in his pastoral heart, he could see that like I was hurting, right? It's crazy. So I did have a great experience at Journey, and had great experience in their house church ministry, especially after I graduated. I was still here for a year working, but yeah, and so the last piece of advice, this is more Jesus advice. That's just Marcus advice. If you guys are looking for a church, for you guys that are about to graduate, finding your church, like that's what I did, and I found that it's helped me a lot. But this is the Jesus advice that I hope you guys take. And it's to not have expectations. Doesn't matter if you're going back to the same church you've been to for however many years you grew up in, or a brand new church. Do not have expectations. I think I remember I was church hopping just a couple of churches when I came back home. I think I went to like 3 or 4. And I went to the church I go to now, Lake Avenue, and I had all these expectations because Epic was great, Journey was great. Not that physical touch is everything, but like in my small group that I go to now, it's like I'm just graduating the side hug with these girls and guys, right? Like before it was like great Bible study, man. And, so it's like totally different from what I've experienced. But I had all these expectations, and I remember it was worship, and I couldn't worship. I was like, God, I can't sing this to you right now. Like, I'm too sad, because I went to this church. It was supposed to be the young adult ministry. There was like 10 young adults. And I was sitting by myself, feeling like totally dejected. And I sit down. And then, this sounds weird to say, but I felt God smack me on the head. Like I felt like, boom, right? Like, and then I was like, well, what do you want, God? And God goes, Marcus, you need to stop having expectations so I can do a new thing in you, right? And that's the big message. It says, I want you to stop having expectations so that I can do something new in you, right? And then I was like, okay, God, I hear you. Stood up, started singing again. I looked, visually, nothing changed, right? Well, my perspective changed about it, right? And now I've been serving at that church. And something that I want to stress for you guys, especially you guys that are about to either coming into college, looking for a church, or coming out, about to come out, I am not having nearly as much fun in my church right now as I did here, right? But that's not my expectation. I'm not having nearly as much fun. Like, you see me, like, as soon as I'm here, like, the energy that, like, me and, like, the dudes back there have, like, it's crazy. Like, it's so much fun for me. I don't have that back home, But I can tell you that I feel like God put me there. I can tell you that He's using me to glorify His name in ways that I don't even know yet. And so the feeling that I have in my heart, even though I'm not having so much fun, I don't feel like I'm being used as much, whatever it is, I feel content, right? Only because I don't have any expectations, right? And He'll use me how He wants me to, how He wants me to, yeah. And so as I close, this is actually going to be a little Bible story, because I haven't shared a story from the Bible yet. And as I close, can Alvin play like some really nice like chord progressions in the background for me to make it like pretty dramatic? Where's that guy? Oh, there he is. Clap it up for Alvin. Alvin, can you lay down like a nice chord progression for me? Thank you. So there's a story in the Bible, right? And this is actually this is for everybody, but especially for you guys that are about to transition out of here, for you people that are graduating soon, thinking about joining a new church, or even getting into a new life stage. And this Bible story really changed my life, and it really applies to the message here, so I hope you guys can hear it. And basically, come on. The story goes like this. So basically, when the Israelites were in the desert, right? It's distracting, isn't it? So the Israelites were in the desert, and you guys know this part of the story already, right? They're wandering. They're like, we're walking in circles. Where am I going, right? And God's purposefully making their journey super long. And this is what they say to God. They say, God, we want the same God that split the sea open. We want the same God that sent manna from heaven, the same God that sent fire tornado from heaven, right? These words are literally spoken. And I'm hearing that and I'm like, yes, you get it, Israel. That's what you should be asking God for. Like remember all the great things he's done. You know what God's response is? God's response is this, and I'll quote him. He goes, forget all that. That's God's response. And I quote, right? Like he says, forget that. And I'm like, God, what? Like they're literally praising you for all these great things that you've done and remembering all this stuff. And then God doesn't talk for another 2 chapters. He literally just says, forget that, and he stops. Then 2 chapters later, you have to really pay attention to catch this. God addresses his people again. And the first thing that he says is, but remember the God that is faithful. Right? And this is the message that I hope you guys can take away, other than the stuff that I was talking about having the correct why in your heart, about wanting to get on the same page with God, about the marks of sacrifice and wanting to get to know him more. But this is the takeaway that you can hopefully take with you as you get out of this place. Whatever it's life stage, coming into college, this is like a very Swiss Army knife kind of advice. But God says, remember, forget all the stuff that I've done, even the good stuff, the bad stuff too, but remember that I'm faithful. And I think that's the habit of ours, is as we go through life, we remember the good things, we try to forget the bad things, but we always try to cling on to the good things, right? But God says, no, forget those two. I'll be good again. Don't worry, I'm faithful. Let that go, and I'll do something new with your life, right? And that's the message that I hope you guys can take with you. I don't know if I took up too much or too little time, but am I good? Cool. So let me pray us out real quick. God, I just want to come into your presence. Very thankful. I pray that the time that we've had here was impactful and can lead to action in these hearts here. God, you're so good, and we love you. We pray that as you look on this group right here, you can be happy. God, I just imagine a smile on your face, seeing all these people in the same room on a Thursday night just worshiping you. I pray that we can feel your gladness as we're in this place. God, I pray for blessings for every single person in this room. I can't say everybody's name, but you can. I pray that you think that name, Lord God, and bring blessings, whether it be through school, a personal situation. Help them know that they are loved. God, just let them know that they're loved tonight. And as it relates to church, I pray that they can have a heart that really wants to get on the same page with you and strive after you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.